Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you thank you to you all for joining us on our new USG FLEX webinar today. If you don't mind just waiting another minute or so, I can see that quite a few people have joined, but I know there's at least another 5 or 6 that are in the process of joining it and signing in at the moment. So if you don't mind, I'll just give them a chance to sign up, and then we'll get started. Thank you. There we go. I think all those people have joined. So welcome once again, everybody, to this USG FLEX webinar. What I want to say at the beginning, obviously, my name is Nigel Canning. I'm a UK sales engineer for the South. Obviously, during or after the webinar, you can ask questions via the GoToWebinar questions panel, and I'll do my best to answer them either towards the end, or if I can't answer it specifically, I will get back to some of the product managers and get the question answered, and then feed it back to you via email. What I would say is that the slide deck from the presentation will get emailed to you after. So in terms of making notes, you can go sit back if you like, because you will get the slide deck afterwards. And if you did need any further technical information or some sales information as to how to sort of target this USG FLEX at your customers, then just please do get in touch. I'll give you my contact details at the end. So let's get started. What I wanted to do at the beginning is just give a quick rundown of the original USG series, which is obviously still out there at the moment and will run in parallel with USG FLEX for a while. But the USG itself, the product family, has been incredibly successful to Xyzal. In 2019 alone, the Xywall name is the product family for the whole sort of USG security family devices. As you can see there, 66,000 devices were sold. From the 2016 to 2019 period, 250,000 devices are out there. The number of active subscribers and obviously the licensing business is substantial. And in terms of our actual total hardware business, security devices represents around about 50% and a growing percentage as well. It's a substantial investment by Xyzal, and going forward, that will just continue to be the case. Obviously, last year, people might be aware of the ATP, the Advanced Threat Protection security device, which we launched as a product family. That's still out there. That's sort of top end, if you like. And what we've done with the USG FLEX is that we've leveraged a lot of the clever technology that's gone into that, and we've brought it down into the USG FLEX. So the actual USG and obviously getting the USG FLEX series going forward has been quite well received by the worldwide media as a fantastic solution for small to medium-sized businesses. There's been numerous reviews from well-known magazines and online magazines to sort of independent security labs, the ICSA Labs company, not-for-profit organization. So it's very well thought of, it is known in the marketplace, and it's a really good sort of enterprise grade security solution, but in the small to medium-sized business space, which is our sort of main claim to fame. So the products now and going forward will look similar as always. This is the type of look and feel that you can see physically. These are just some of the comments from various magazines regarding the USG. Obviously, we've got PR people reviewing the USG FLEX series at the moment, so they will come out. So let's get started with the actual USG FLEX series and why we've brought it out. So there are really two aspects to my personal view on it. The hardware platform has been completely refreshed, and the underlying security engines have been refreshed and increased in terms of cloud, leveraging cloud technology and some new relationships, which I'll explain in a minute. But it's a hardware and a software and sort of cloud functionality increase as well, an improvement rather. One of the phrases that we've seen bandied around is basically this so-called higher precision detection. So the idea of it is to get across the fact that obviously the number of threats is forever increasing. So we need a solution that can basically cope with that increase in security threats. So basically by leveraging, let's call the cloud a limitless resource, we can basically have a database of threats that are almost unlimited in terms of their signatures, which you just simply couldn't maintain or process via a database that's held on the on-premise device. So the idea is that basically using cloud technology, which will be continuously learning and collecting threat information from all kinds of sensors, both within the USG FLEX devices, in the ATP product families, by the partners that we've signed up to in terms of their cloud engines and their probes that sit all around the internet collecting information. So we're leveraging that kind of technology to substantially increase our ability to detect threats. What we have done is we've basically leveraged the best kind of threat intelligence solution providers out there. So we work with Bitdefender from a sort of antivirus point of view, MaxMind, and one of the big relationships, which I'll come to in a minute, is basically with McAfee. But we also use Lastline and Cosmos. So basically, we integrate these threat intelligence engines from the various companies and produce this sort of single solution, which runs and exists within the USG FLEX family. So obviously, McAfee is a very well-known internet security product company. And obviously, we've entered into a substantial OEM type relationship where we leverage their OEM security engines and their threat detection cloud engines, so on and so forth, and we wrap it together with all of our own technology to deliver at scale, you know, a substantial threat detection solution. So really, why have we sort of chosen McAfee? Well, they have for quite a while now had leading technology solutions for threat detection. As I said earlier on, their cloud database basically is continually growing with all of the probes and other devices that are out there that are learning from security threats and feeding back in a sort of positive loop that basically allows the detection rate to keep going up. So this solution basically meets the sort of the leading brand detection rates. We've had some tests done, which basically you can see there the well-known competitors are Sophos and Fortinet, and you can see that our detection rates are at least equal and in many cases higher than the competition. And this comes about via, as I say, these leading relationships that we've entered into. One of the other clever things, which is quite subtle, excuse me, is that from the time that the device boots up, the actual detection rate performance is substantially improved by the cloud query, because obviously the cloud is not down as such. It's always online 24/7 in theory. Whereas you know, an initially booting up device would have to download the latest cloud signature, so on and so forth. So by leveraging the cloud engine, there are some subtle advantages as well. Some of the things that are quite subtle as well that the McAfee offering improves on is basically we have a much expanded category range for enhanced web filtering, whereas before we used to have around about 64 categories. That now is expanded out to 111 and will probably increase over time as well. One of the other substantial issues in the UK, if you're in education or schooling or certain charity type organizations where the actual security policy is mandated by government or by local education authorities, is you need to meet the counter-terrorism internet referral unit list, which basically is all to do with you know, terrorist related websites. If you can't filter them out for these kind of organizations, in theory you can't be a provider to such organizations. Well, the McAfee engine now integrates that CTIRU engine and lists automatically into the scanning and the web filtering. So that's now taken care of, as you can see in the graph. So that allows the detection rate for such things to go up substantially, and hence you would now be able to leverage a USG FLEX in an educational environment that would otherwise have failed that testing environment. One of the things I wanted to touch upon is basically, obviously, any security device really has to have a multi-pronged approach, as it says here, multi-layered. So on the left-hand side, you've got sort of known security threats that you want to block, and you need engines and technology and so on and so forth to do that. So obviously, you can use a URL filtering engine to block known threats. Obviously, anti-malware, antivirus, you can scan attachments and so on and so forth coming down. And then intrusion detection, obviously by doing deep packet inspection on the data coming through the device. As you pick up known threats, you can then block it. So you, as it says there, you can intrusion prevention system is in there as well. So on the left, you've got the concept of blocking known security threats. And on the right, you've got features that basically allow you to try and restrict and prevent or sort of control the online behavior of your users and your customers and so on and so forth. So you can do that, as it says here, from a geographical enforcement point of view. So you can, the device can be set to say, no access to websites in Russia or China or things like that you might perceive to be a risk. Obviously, you can do web filtering and block off all kinds of characteristics within the URL. So you could stop any Adobe Flash, or that's getting less and less nowadays, executables, so on and so forth. And you can do things which I'm going to go to in slightly greater detail, application patrol. So you can just say, I don't want any FTP transfers. So what I'm trying to get across here, this is a clever device that will do multi-layered blocking protection on the one side, and it will also allow you to sort of characterize and control your users' behavior with a view to trying to restrict security issues as much as possible and maintain company policy. The other thing that is important to note is that the USG FLEX series has a substantial performance boost over the original USG devices. Now that comes from the new hardware platform. So that's using newer CPUs and SoCs, so systems on a chip, basically that have, for instance, encryption chipset boosting performance. Sorry, encryption focused instruction sets that basically allow the device to be much faster when it comes to things like VPNs or SSL, so on and so forth. But the new platform on the whole, basically, depending on the version that you use, can see a substantial firewall improvement as you got here. So firewall performance almost double, 125%. UTM performance with the what's called the Cloud Query Express mode, hugely increased, as I said here, 500%. I'll go over some of these features in more detail. These are sort of like the top end features. But on the whole, this device is substantially more performant than the USG for very little, if any, cost differential either. This is quite a useful graph that I stumbled across that just shows you the red part of the chart tends to be the current USG family, so USG 40, 60, and 110, and then the blue is the newer, let's just say, equivalent model USG FLEX. There's some conversion tables coming up, but you can see the sort of throughput improvements from a firewall and a UTM point of view, substantial, as I said. Obviously, any sort of UTM device, and in the current climate, obviously remote access and being secure in that is key. So the USG FLEX continues in that vein. There's some sort of wizards and some help in the configuration to actually make the configuration of remote access simpler. So if you've got a maybe a less skilled workforce, or you maybe want to talk through your end user customers to set up remote working, it's got some wizards to help in that. It offers the full IPsec protocol suite as before, and obviously SSL, remote access, and obviously level 2 tunneling protocol over IPsec, just as everything is before. If people have been following the USG and the ATP firmware upgrades at the beginning of the COVID crisis, you'll know that we issued some free firmware upgrades that increased the number of SSL VPN users that were supported by the devices. And the USG FLEX continues in that vein, and you can see that the number of SSL VPN users is substantially higher. So all of the devices will support SSL VPN remote access clients easily, and yeah, it's a given nowadays, I would say, this sort of thing. Another slight change to the USG FLEX is the concept of a flexible subscription. So the USG FLEX, the USG has always had a device-only part code where you just buy the device and it has no UTM functionality, so no antivirus or anything like that. So if you just wanted a straightforward firewall, you could do that. Most people obviously buy the bundle, which basically includes all the UTM features. Now, there's a slight change in the USG FLEX. It's got the same overall concepts, but what we've also got now is you've got the UTM bundle, where you can buy it as a device or a bundled and device option at the beginning. But there's also this thing which I'll go over in a minute called the hospitality bundle. That's all to do with managing access points and the sort of hospitality printers for Wi-Fi access, that sort of thing. And you can also use, choose a number of single licenses. So if the bundle is, should we say, too much for you, you don't need certain aspects. There's some broken out licensing as well to make life a bit easier, more cost effective. So this is quite a nice license option page. So basically, the first column shows you what's included in the bundled license. So the so-called UTM license includes web filtering, IPS and IDP, obviously application patrol, anti-malware, email security if you are still running an on-premise email server of some kind. And one of the key things nowadays is that it also includes Secure Reporter, which I'll go over in a minute as well. It's worth noting the Secure Reporter license is included, and that's for free. Then you can see this other so-called license at the bottom called the Hospitality License. Now, there's a note at the bottom here. The Hospitality License and the Hospitality features, they only apply to the USG FLEX 200 and 500 models. The USG FLEX 100 is more of a sort of a a cafe or a pub, that sort of thing, or somebody at home. It's the smaller end of the market. So it doesn't really apply to these features. The hospitality license doesn't apply to the 100. So that hospitality license is all to do with having a managed access point service, hotspot management, so you can have a printer and so on and so forth, and give out tokens to access Wi-Fi, that sort of thing. And the concurrent device feature is basically the ability to deal with all the access points as one big access point. From a renewal point of view, when you renew, you go from Secure Reporter to Secure Reporter Premium, which is a small uplift. The so-called concept of the a la carte license, if you buy the web filtering license, it also comes with email security as well. But so if you just want a web filtering device, you would buy the web filtering a la carte license. If you want the antivirus type scanning license, you can buy the anti-malware license. And obviously, if you want to continue to use, or you want to buy Secure Reporter on its own, you can do. And the same thing applies for the hospitality license. There's an a la carte version of it as well. So the license is not really that dissimilar to the USG. There's just a little bit more flexibility, and the hospitality license is broken out basically. So one of the things that I just mentioned upon, and my personal view of mine, one of the things that's really key to any kind of security solution is the ability to report on what the device is doing. If you can't do that, you can't really understand and report on to perhaps senior management or the board or whatever, or the finance people, as to what the device is actually doing, because there's such a lot of noise on any kind of security device because the probes are going on all the time. You really need an analytical reporting service or function that actually shows you in sort of graphical and pie charts and an easy to understand mechanism what the device is doing, what the benefits are, where perhaps your staff or individuals are up to no good, or bandwidth usage, or accessing certain sites or characteristics of sites which are waste of time. The usual thing, used YouTube, Facebook. How much time are your staff spending on Facebook and that sort of thing? So with Secure Reporter, which comes for free with the bundled license, you get this reporting, this cloud-based reporting functionality. So data, so the data is not sent up to there, but source and destination IPs and useful data flows and so on and so forth, so that you can actually work out what your staff are actually doing is sent up to the cloud engine, and that reports on it in a very sophisticated way that you can drill down on. It's obviously wherever you can get a web access, secure web access to Secure Reporter, you can see what your firewall is doing. You don't change the configuration of the firewall via it, you do that via the local premise or local remote access VPN. But from the ability to report on what your security device is doing and justifying, internet security or network security to your senior management is a key feature, and that's really where Secure Reporter comes into its own. Obviously, as any sort of networking device, it's got comprehensive connectivity throughout. So as I said earlier on, it supports hospitality features, so you can manage access points if you like. We're giving you the choice to obviously manage your on-premise access points via an on-premise device if you'd like, or you can carry on doing it via Nebula, something like that. The concept of AP grouping is basically just to bring all, as you would imagine, is just to bring all the access points together as one big blob, for want of a better word, and manage them all as one individual entity from a simplified configuration point of view. But you could have a group of access points that maybe are the school, you can have a group of access points which are the teachers' areas, or you could have a group of devices which are in the library, say, logical groupings to help you manage the devices simpler. There is a default number of access points that each device manages, which is in this table here. So the default is 8 for all the devices, and then the maximum number is the second number. So for a USG 100, the maximum is 24. To go from 8 access points to 10 or more, you need to buy additional access point licenses, which is a simple and quite cheap license to do that. On the next few slides, just go over some of the license features and what they're all about. So as I said earlier on, one of the key things with anti-malware is this so-called cloud query. So this is the ability of the on-premise device in stream mode. So as data travels through the device, pattern matching and hashing and so on and so forth is fed up to the Zyzal security cloud in an express mode, so that you can detect all of these sort of security risks that are out there using the cloud mechanism, the Zyzal security cloud. So that's how I'm saying that cloud has, let's call it a limitless database of issues. I know it's not limitless, but it's huge and it's forever growing. Whereas your USG FLEX device is a fixed scale on premise, where so the cloud gives you the ability to leverage that sort of infinite security signature mechanism and pick up much higher detection rates without having to compromise on having a smaller on-premise device. There's a lot of clever technology gone into the fast stream-based scanning. So basically you're getting a real-time protection. There's no real there's no real noticeable delays in this. And basically it gives you the ability to sort of leverage these cloud optimized databases and get great detection rates. Obviously, one of the things with web filtering basically allows you to block access to malicious or risky websites that are actually within the category service database. So obviously, it prevents your users from going to malicious or hacked websites. So as soon as those websites are picked up by any of the cloud engines, the database is updated. And obviously your URL or HTTP access, if it meets or matches the category, then it will be blocked or enabled as requested by the policy. So it can be very fairly finely grained in terms of its control. And obviously, as I said, as the threats are picked up dynamically and in real time by the various cloud engines, your filtering also is updated in real time as well. One of the other really useful categories is application patrol. I use it quite a bit actually in work. So basically it's the ability to automatically categorize and manage applications, as it says here. So the key idea is identifying applications. So in this instance, it could be, like Twitter or Facebook or, WebEx or something like that, or Netflix. So identify it. Then obviously the USG FLEX device categorizes it, and then that allows you within the configuration and the policy control of the device to actually control those applications. So it doesn't necessarily mean block it, because obviously you can block it if you want to, but what it does mean is that you can do things like prioritize it, throttle back the things that aren't important, and obviously block things that are a waste of time. So from a priority point of view, you could give Office 365 or Salesforce CRM access or access to Google apps, that sort of thing. You would prioritize that over other traffic. Things like Twitter or maybe Skype or Facebook, maybe you don't want to actually ban it, but you don't want to give that priority from a traffic throughput point of view. So you would throttle that down to something usable. And then obviously those things that you think are a waste of time within work, like YouTube and Netflix or peer-to-peer BitTorrent sites, you would block those. So this is where application control gives you these granular and precise controls over applications. Then one of the classic things of any UTM device is the so-called intrusion detection and prevention. So there are basically very high performance deep packet inspection engines within the device that can look at all the incoming and outgoing traffic, including SSL traffic with the appropriate certificates installed. And then you can detect and obviously prevent unusual invalid protocols that maybe people are trying to find their way through to sort of maybe crash SQL servers, that sort of thing, nasty stuff. And obviously the key thing to this is it looks at the protocol, and if it is an invalid state machine, say someone's trying to probe an SQL server, it will block that. If it knows full well it's trying to do something that is clearly wrong, this is where the IDS and hence the subsequent prevention comes in and stops any security issues. Excuse me. Maybe less so than of years ago, but email security is built in as well. It still is a requirement for some people that wish to operate their own on-premise email server. We've got high quality protection that is provided by a global cloud solution. So you can send your email service via the USG FLEX email anti-spam engine, and it will take care of scanning incoming email and making sure outgoing email is valid as well, even then you can run policies on it and so on and so forth. So with things like Office 365 and people using Google apps and things like that, I guess in some respects email security is less of an issue these days, but it's still built into the platform. It's still a high-end and high-quality solution if you require it. Then we come to the hospitality license. So the concept here is basically the management of access points to give great quality on-premise Wi-Fi to your customers. So basically you can do things like guest management, and you can improve and control the security of what customers like guests or staff or contractors are able to do. Excuse me. The provisioning mechanisms are made easier because you can have groups, as I said earlier on, and this concept of concurrent device upgrade. So if you've got a group, you can upgrade the firmware on the group, or you can apply the policy changes to the group or all the groups, so on and so forth. So it basically enables a business to basically easily scale and control wireless and Wi-Fi access within a property or a network of any kind. And that's really what we term the hospitality bundle on the hospitality license. Next thing to do, we just want to make sure that everyone's aware of actually migration. There are some advantages coming up in the license migration. So if you have a USG FLEX device, if you have a USG device, what's going to happen is that the current USG device, whichever is the longest license within the USG device, that will be added to the USG FLEX. This is the graph that shows it. So basically, what it's saying is, if you've got a licensed USG device, the content filter is valid for 180 days, but the IDP is only valid for 45 days. When we take the bundle over, you will get 180 days across all of the filtering and control sections. So by then adding that to the bundle that it comes with, you'll get a substantial uplift, basically. So it's quite an advantage, basically. If you want to upgrade a USG to a USG FLEX, you won't lose out. In fact, you'll gain hugely. The actual license activation process has been made slightly easier. There's just essentially two parts to the activation of the license. So you receive a license key if you buy a bundled device, or if you buy a separate license, you can assign it to the customer on the Zyzal My Partner website, and then you can activate it all together, and it allows you to consolidate expiry notifications and so on and so forth within that portal. So I would always say use My Zyzal to register your devices, manage your license keys, so on and so forth, because you will be able to see when the device's license is about to expire. You can export all that information and obviously then contact your customer about organizing license renewals. This is just a very simple table just to show that the various models will be able to be converted, so the configurations will be able to be converted from a particular USG model to a particular USG FLEX model. I want to dig out the URL actually. If anyone is interested in that, just ping me a quick email, because it actually is quite a useful website. So you can convert from a USG to USG FLEX, and you can do other things from a USG to an ATP, so on and so forth. So this is just showing you there's going to be various versions of the configuration migrator coming along that will allow you to convert various parts of the configuration simply. Now, these upcoming product comparisons, basically it's just to help you. As I said, you will get these slides. It's just to show you the tables of the features of each of the devices, some useful comparisons against competitors. So if you are looking to upgrade and you come across a competitor's device, you can quickly have a look at the columns, compare, and then choose your equivalent USG FLEX device. So I'll go through these quite quickly, because you've got a table for the USG FLEX 100, 200, and the 500. These are the three devices that are currently on the parts list and for sale, and have been selling now for about 6 weeks or so. There are more devices coming out during the year. I'll just go over the actual specifications of the devices from a sort of software and hardware point of view. So as you can see here, the initial base device is the USG FLEX 100. You can see what its firewall throughput rate is, what its VPN, IDP, and AV throughput rates are. You can see the number of WAN interfaces, the number of LAN interfaces, and also auxiliary ports like USB 3. So if you want to copy configurations to USB, you can do that. So each of these tables has got, the realistic real world network performance, and obviously is it fanless, for instance, and so on and so forth, rack mountable. So the USG 100 is, as I said, it's the base model. When you move to the 200, you get more WAN ports, higher throughputs, so on and so forth. And then you get to the 500, which is rack mountable, even more Ethernet interfaces, which can be completely configurable. So you can have, if I go back, you've got 2 WAN ports, for instance, on the 200, and 4 LAN ports, whereas when you go to the 500, you've got 7 ports, which are configurable in terms of you could have 3 WAN ports if you wanted to. Also, when you reach the USG FLEX 500, you also get features like Device High Availability Pro. So you can have 2 of those devices that are essentially in active passive mode, but they're in lockstep. So literally if one of them fails, if the primary one fails, the secondary one takes over with no loss of connectivity, because the state machines are synchronized between the 2 devices. Then you've got feature matrix tables here coming up, so you can basically look at all of the features and throughputs and so on and so forth, and compare them against what your requirement would be. So it's from simple things like, does it need to be fanless? Does it need to be rack mountable? What are the firewall throughputs? What are the realistic UTM throughputs? Number of SSL connections, VLAN interfaces, so on and so forth. So these tables, which are in the slides, are quite useful to help you choose which device to go for. So that just completes the sort of the feature matrix table. As I said, these are all coming in the slides to you. So obviously, not much good without ordering information. So this gives you the UK part numbers of the device only model, and then the device with the bundled license. And you can see that the USG FLEX 100 is the device only. The USG FLEX 100 security bundle is the device and license bundle. So that applies to all of the 3 currently available devices. Then you can see each model effectively has got its licenses broken out. So if you just wanted to have anti-malware, antivirus, you would just go for the LIC-BAV licenses. So you've got 1 year and 2 year antivirus licenses. If you just want a bundle of web filtering and email security, you could go with the LIC-BUN ZZ0090F. So hopefully you get the concept, or you can go for a full bundle. You've also got the additional access point licenses down here as well. So if you want 2, 4, or 8 additional access points, these are the LIC-EAP licenses down there. Obviously, if you just wanted, I don't know, maybe antivirus and secure reporter, you would just buy the appropriate secure reporter license. So there's a USG FLEX 100 license page, a 200 page, and a 500 page. Essentially, they're the same, apart from obviously the part number matches the appropriate USG FLEX model. Well, getting towards the end now, I would. Some people obviously said, well, how does the ATP, the USG FLEX, and the USG compare, basically? So obviously, if you start on the right-hand side on the USG that the current USG series that you're aware of, that basically just has what's called stream mode at the moment. With the USG FLEX, you have what's called dual scan options. So you can have current stream mode, which doesn't leverage the cloud, or you can have the express mode, which does leverage the cloud. The USG series doesn't have a URL threat filter type reputation service, whereas the USG FLEX and the ATP does. The ATP series is still our top-end solution, and you can see that not all of the features that were introduced in the ATP are available on the USG FLEX. So the very clever zero-day threat detection, which uses machine learning and sandboxing, that's not available. That's still on the ATP series and will only ever be on the ATP series. Things like external IP URL blacklists, which come in from third parties to block certain features, they're only available on the ATP. And there are some other reputation services that are only fully available on the ATP. So the idea of this is just to show you current USG, what additional features are coming to the USG FLEX, and what will always be in the top end ATP series. Obviously, one of the most obvious things that people ask, well, how do you see the models mapping? So this is the current expectation. So the USG 40 and the wireless model, so hence the W, would map to the USG FLEX 100. The 60 maps to the 200, and the USG 110, 210 maps to the 500. There is another model coming out later on this year, early next year, which is the 700. So the performance and the number of Ethernet interfaces is going up, as you would expect. It's a really, really good solution. It's, as I said, the hardware has been completely refreshed for much higher performance, and the relationships with global security players in the internet security space has been substantially improved with McAfee and some other engine providers that have been brought online as well. So you've got that, huge cloud resource that can be leveraged by a relatively small scale on-premise USG FLEX device. So we've nearly reached the end there. I will stay on the line for any questions if anybody's got any questions. Thank you very much for your time and everything today, everybody. As I said, my name's Nigel Canning. My email address is nigel.canning@sizewell.co.uk. If there's anything I've not answered, or there's something you want to discuss individually, please, by all means, ping me an email with contact details and I can ring you or email back. So I don't mind, entirely up to you. I would also mention, if you are in the, if you're an MSP, I always put the MSP up. If you need to go to that page, that's the URL there. So if you are considering being an MSP, please go to that page and get in touch and register. And finally, thank you very much indeed. I will stay on the line and answer any questions. I can see there's a couple from gentleman Gary. I'll look at your question and answer it now. But thank you very much for your time, and have a good afternoon. Thank you.